Hey kids, and all you grown-ups out there who love listening to me read stories. I'm back again to read another story. You know, we're all kind of on an extended vacation because of our lovely pandemic, COVID pandemic. So I figured I'd read another story and maybe it'll help break up the day a little bit. I also wanted to show you this cool pin I got for Christmas from my mom. I really like pins. This is a lady screaming. I thought maybe some of you might be able to relate to that pin. I like funny pins. So I'm gonna read a story today called The Paper Crane. And I wanted to tell you guys, did you know that if you go to, well, at least in Vancouver here, if you go to your local library with a kid's library card, you can take out up to 50 books on your library card. So why don't you go over to the library, and if you have any siblings, you can go and you can take out even more books, and then you can take them home and sit and read in the living room and just relax with your hot chocolate or your tea or your cookies and spend some of your time reading because it's super relaxing and kind of fun. And you can come up with cool projects from your books too. Like this one, I thought, what if you went onto YouTube and you looked up origami, and then you could make cool paper cranes, or you could come up with other fun little toys that you could make out of origami. I had a friend who loved making paper cranes so much that she made a whole bunch of them and hung them all around her room on the ceiling, and she'd have like cool long strings of paper cranes hanging down. So that's kind of a fun way to decorate your room. We all have to be extra creative right now during this time off school, and hopefully I'll be able to read some more books and give you something to look forward to. But I'm gonna read this one. It's by Molly Bang, and it's an old folk tale. So folk tales are usually stories that are from different cultures, that your culture or other cultures, that tell a story. Usually they have some sort of a moral or a lesson at the end, and they're kind of interesting because there's usually a little bit of magic involved in them, which is kind of interesting because if you think about your current life and like when you're out in nature and different things, maybe you'll notice some little semblances of magic and you'll be able to make up your own folktale. Maybe you can, after this book, you can go and write a story of something that happened to you that was kind of magical. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera around and read this book, The Paper Crane. I hope you like it. Okay, I've got my rudimentary setup here. My book propped against a bucket, The Paper Crane by Molly Bang. The other thing that's kind of cool about taking out books at the library is you don't have to just take out storybooks. You could take out books that teach you different kinds of crafts. There's some really interesting books on like if you know how to crochet or knit, or if you want to make paper crafts, or you know, painting or drawing. Sometimes books will teach you different ways to draw, or how to draw your favorite cartoon characters or that kind of thing. So go check it out. It's pretty cool. Okay, so here are the books. The book is setting us up in a kind of a cafe or a restaurant. And what is going to happen? And there's a kid sleeping over there. So sometimes people have a cafe or a restaurant or a store, and part of their house is attached, or their house is attached to the cafe or the restaurant. And I think that in the past, a lot of times people's businesses were attached to their homes. People would go to the restaurant and then the owners would live in the back or on top. So here we have a restaurant. A man once owned a restaurant on a busy road. He loved to cook good food and he loved to serve it. He worked from morning until night and he was happy. I think sometimes people think work is kind of like boring or tedious or annoying, but it can also be really enjoyable. If you have the kind of mentality where you go into work and you're glad because you get to do something that's helpful and help people's days be better, and you can like, sometimes all it takes is a positive attitude. You just do your job. Like if you have to help your parents at home with cleaning and you do it with a positive attitude and you put on your headphones and you listen to music while you're doing it, it can actually be really fun to do those jobs, and you get to participate in your family and help out. But a new highway was built close by. Travelers drove straight from one place to another and no longer stopped at the restaurant. Many days went by when no guests came at all. The man became very poor and had nothing to do but dust and polish his empty plates and tables. So here you can see he's keeping himself busy by cleaning and sitting around being very lonely and bored. He's got his kid there to keep him company though, but I think that they would be more happy if there was people at the restaurant. There's the map of the highway going through and there's this little restaurant. So people are just traveling past and they don't stop anymore. One evening, a stranger came into the restaurant. His clothes were old and worn, but he had an unusual gentle manner. I wonder what the stranger will say. Though he said he had no money to pay for the food, the owner invited him to sit down. He cooked the best meal he could make and served him like a king. When the stranger had finished, he said to his host, "I cannot pay you with money, but I would like to thank you in my own way." Wow, that's kind of different than what we do now, hey? We don't usually let people get things for free, be considered free if they didn't have money, but this man has a gift to give them. He picked up a paper napkin from the table and folded it into the shape of a crane. "You have only to clap your hands," he said, "and this bird will come to life and dance for you. Take it and enjoy it while it's with you." With these words, the stranger left. A magic paper crane, what will happen? It happened just as the stranger had said. The owner had only to clap his hands and the paper crane became a living bird, flew down to the floor and danced. Oh my gosh, can you imagine if that happened with one of your toys or with some origami that somebody made for you? Actually, that reminds me of a story. When my kids were really little, I was at the park one day and there was this older lady and she took her handkerchief and she folded it in the style of origami and she made a little mouse out of it and she gave it to Bernice when they were really little. It was a very cool gift. Soon word of the dancing crane spread and people came from far and near to see the magical bird perform. Now people want to come to this place. They say, "What is happening here? There's some cool stuff going on, some cool magic." And everybody's talking about it. This guy's telling the kids, "There's a crane at this restaurant. You're going to see it. It dances around. It's such a magical thing." The owner was happy again, for his restaurant was always full of guests. He cooked and served and had company from morning until night. Look at all the people there. They came to watch the crane. I really like this kind of illustration. If you notice, the background is brown paper and then the artist has cut out the shapes of the people and placed it on the brown paper. So it's kind of like collage, which you could do if you just took some construction paper. You could cut out shapes of pants and shirts and you could make people, and this person even has like some felt hair or something like that. You can even just tear paper and make it into cool shapes and stick it onto a background. The weeks passed and the months. Like, look at this little flower. It looks like it's just little bits of paper that have been cut in the broom too. Strings, little pieces of string. So the man's happy and his kid's happy and they have lots of work to do and lots of food to make and there's lots of visitors. One evening, a man came into the restaurant. His clothes were old and worn, but he had an unusual, gentle manner. The owner knew him at once and was overjoyed. It's that man again. The stranger, however, said nothing. He took a flute from his pocket, raised it to his lips, and began to play. What's going to happen? There's the paper crane. The crane flew down from its place on the shelf and danced as it had never danced before. So the thing that's kind of cool about this crane is it seems to turn back into the paper crane whenever it's evening. The stranger finished playing, lowered the flute from his lips, and returned it to his pocket. He climbed on the back of the crane, and they flew out of the door and away. I hope the restaurant still does well. The restaurant still stands by the side of the road, and guests still come to eat the good food and hear the story of the gentle stranger and the magic crane made from a paper napkin. But neither the stranger nor the dancing crane has ever been seen again. Wow, what a cool story. And there's the boy, now he's a bit older, playing the flute. And look, there's a little paper rose in the vase made out of collage. So that's the end of the story. So let me just turn the camera back around and we can talk about it. I think that, what do you think the moral of that story was? I think maybe the moral was something like, don't judge a book by its cover. Have you guys ever heard that phrase before? That's the idea that when you see someone or something and you make a judgment on it based on what it looks like, you might be missing something, because underneath there may be some more information that is about to come out if you meet it with an open mind. So maybe you meet someone and they look a certain way and it makes you uncomfortable, or it makes you feel like your immediate response is to not accept it or accept that person or their ideas, or to turn them away. It means that you need to stop and you need to think about, why are you feeling that way and why are you acting that way, and then maybe give them a chance and see what happens when you let them in. Like the restaurant owner, he let in that man even though he didn't have any money to pay for food, and he ended up receiving a very interesting and rewarding gift that brought lots of luck to his restaurant. So think about that the next time you meet someone and you aren't sure if you're gonna feel comfortable around them. Give them a chance. Sometimes that happens at school, sometimes that happens with people on the street that you meet. If you're walking around, obviously you need to be safe and you need to listen to the inner voice in your head that's keeping you safe and keeping you protected. And it's always good to make sure that you talk to your parents or your caregivers about those things that are making you uncomfortable or making you feel worried. But if you're at school and you see somebody who looks a little bit different than you, it's okay to give them a chance and be friendly. And maybe you'll get some interesting rewards from it. Maybe that friend will be in your life for the rest of your life. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the book, and go to the library and get out a bunch and read on your own and do some cool crafts. Talk to you soon. Bye.